All right, guys, on this segment, we're going to be talking about what is a non-disclosure agreement and should I use one? In my opinion, the case is always yes, but we're going to dive in. We're going to talk about that today. And you're probably wondering, what is a non-disclosure agreement? Well, guess what? If you don't know what it is, get very familiar with it. If not, then you're going to be in harm's way. And I will tell you that from a legal perspective after signing hundreds and hundreds, if actually multiple thousands of NDAs just within the last few years. Okay. And the reason being is this: an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, basically just says, look, there's you and there's me, and we're going to talk about something that should not be disclosed to public. And if it is disclosed to public, there's irreparable damage, there's harm, you're violating our agreement to keep this information secret and private, and ultimately you're violating an agreement at that time, and it becomes a big deal. I mean, there's trade secrets, what they call with businesses, that should be kept under NDA. Why? If your competitors know about it, ultimately your competitors will have an advantage on you. They understand how you operate, certain things within your business, all of that. So what I do is, with every one of my employees, there's two things in the way I approach business. One, I compartmentalize information so that people only know enough where that information that they know, if they went out in public and they literally stole everything they know within their role of the job, it's not that bad, right? A lot of these are going to be freelancers online in a lot of my businesses. However, there's other people that are main key partners and business employees in some of my businesses that even if they took that information, guess what? They're a partner of another business that's owned by a bigger business, and they only know a certain amount of information, where if they took that out without all the other information from across other parts of the business, it's really not that bad, right? So with that said, you want to structure this in two ways. Either have everybody sign an NDA, or you're faithful enough in your processes and your operating procedures and the limited amount of information that this person or persons have in this part of your business that even if they took that, it's not going to cause harm to your business. And the reason why is this: if you have somebody sign an NDA and it's something that's so basically simple, it's going to look pretty stupid, right? People are going to come back and go, well, I signed an NDA and we only talked about that, but it was already public knowledge. Now, that's your decision to decide that. Nobody else can decide that for you. But what I will say is this: if you have certain things that are disclosed, like whenever I have people come over to my companies or in my warehouses or into my business, or I know that they're going to be potentially subjected to other information that should not be public, sign an NDA. If I'm prospecting a project, if I'm getting details on a certain project or meeting with certain architect firms, builders, developers, things like that, and I have a concept and I don't want that concept to get out yet because I haven't released it yet, under an NDA. If I'm talking about trade secrets, the way I coded a program, or the way we do certain marketing things in our business, or certain avenues that we're going to be taking, other businesses that we might look at buying, things like that, those are things that you would want to have an NDA for. All right? That's your determination. So base it there, weigh it there. Let's get into what an NDA is, okay? An NDA is a legal contract to protect confidential information. I gave you a lot better explanation, but the baseline is this: confidential information. You disclose and determine what is confidential and what's not. Now, why are they important? Because they protect the business ideas, right? They protect your trade secrets. They maintain a competitive edge, all of this stuff. You want to make sure that nobody knows how you're operating, what you're doing, things like that, because your process could be a patentable thing. I have patents on certain processes that I've invented. Those processes are in other businesses, and they are supposed to be paying royalties for those processes, right? Because it's a patent. So those are things that you need to look at. Now, when talking to investors or partners, probably should have an NDA, right? That's when you're going to use it. You're going to have sharing proprietary processes or inventions. I talked about that already, but let's dive into that a little bit more, right? If you have anything that's an idea, even if it's your closest friend, think about this. I've heard of businesses, and I've talked to business owners that had ideas, and their partner, employee, or even their best friend at the time was at the baseline and the ground level. They heard about it, they didn't have an NDA, that person went and they stole the idea, and then they made millions, right? Or they made the business to what it is today. One of the more famous examples, look at McDonald's. I mean, the way McDonald's story early on, we won't go into that here, but there was an idea, there was no NDA, there was nothing signed, and somebody stole the idea, blew it up to what it is today. How would you feel if that was you? So think about that. Make sure it doesn't happen to you. I would sign NDAs on everything, even if it looks stupid. Determine that. Like I said, that's your decision to make. I personally, it's better to have one and not need it than to not have one and definitely need it, right? So we've talked about using when they use NDAs, right? Number 3. Number 4, what are the types of NDAs? There's going to be different ones. Unilateral, bilateral, okay? And unilateral is essentially one NDA is you have a disclosing party who's going to disclose the information, and you have a receiving party who's going to receive the information. You're the business owner in the business, somebody else is coming into the business and they're going to work in the business. They're going to subcontract certain parts of the business out. They're going to be looking at plans, or they're going to be using some of your proprietary systems or information or processes to do whatever they need to do. Unilateral, that's when they should be signing that, right? What is a bilateral? Bilateral means both ways. You have two businesses that are working together on a project. Both are going to be sharing information, and ultimately both those businesses are actually going to be putting the information in, and both have an invested interest in it. And ultimately those businesses are going to be sharing the information. So it's both directions, bilateral, both ways. Now I will tell you this, make sure that your language in the NDA is ultimately protective of you. You want to have this be a one-sided NDA. Okay, you don't want to have a bilateral NDA if it's not needed and you only need a unilateral. You don't want to have language written where it's an even keel NDA, what they call it, where both people are just protected by the information. No, what's going to happen with the information when it's done? Who's going to retain the information? What are the methods of giving the information back? What's the methods of letting the other party know that they violated this NDA? Is it written? Is it verbal? Is it going to be on a phone? Is it going to be over an email? The more detailed you can get, the better that you can be right now, because ultimately you don't want to leave any stone unturned, as they call it. You want to make sure you hit everything, because the more solid your NDA is now, the better chances you are, if you ever go to court, at claiming that there was an infringement or a possible theft or anything else, or a violation of an agreement, is what it comes down to. You can prove it. So we talked about the types of NDA, that's number 4. Number 5 is going to be, what should an NDA include? Definitions of confidential information. I started talking about this a minute ago, right? Duration of the confidentiality, the penalties for the breaches. The other things to include in there, already discussed those. Who retains the information, methods of giving it back, choice of venue if there's violations, things like that. That gets in the contractual agreements, but this is an agreement here, right? Non-disclosure agreement. Make sure these are in there. Research this. You have things like AI tools now that will draft you very inclusive NDAs if you prompt it the right way. If you want information for that, put a message below. I will send you some information, because we do trainings on this frequently, and I will show you exactly how we use this to our benefit. Now, my secret to this is we do the drafts on these, we get the agreements in line, and then I have a professional lawyer review them. So the lawyer's not the one drafting it, because they're going to be templated anyways. It's not like you're creating something new. There might be a new name or a new paragraph in there that talks about the products or services that may be unique to your businesses. But outside of that, it's not going to be like you're creating a completely new NDA where you need to be charged $1,000, $3,000 or more for this, right? If you are, sorry, you got the wrong lawyer, go get somebody else, right? So limitations of an NDA. What are the limitations of an NDA? What an NDA cannot cover, put that in there. If there's certain things in there that it can't cover, look at the law. Obviously, these default back to the law. The law is going to have certain things, and we're not going to talk about that here, but they're very minimal, right? What an NDA can't cover, what's not protected, and what are the enforceability issues? Research some of that. I believe we have that is covered in our research documents that we have, that we're going to be providing you with this. If not, you can just Google that, or you can look it up on the AI. You know, what are limitations of an NDA? What can an NDA not cover? What cannot be enforced in an NDA? And it'll tell you exactly what that is. And then to get more specific, put what cannot be enforced in an NDA in this industry or with this business. Get more specific, it'll pump that out for you, and you'll have some better understanding. It's not gospel. Definitely get it checked by a second party or a lawyer, attorney, because you want to make sure that you got your bases covered. Now, examples of NDA use, real examples. So I've used NDAs in projects brand new projects for massive hotels, things that are happening at Disney and theme parks, things that go on with the NFL, the NHL, products that I've sold to certain companies like Kroger's and Walmart's and Pepsi's. I've talked about these many times before. We have massive, massive clients. I have clients, many clients that are in the Fortune 500, Fortune 50 range, and every single one of them, I can tell you the importance of an NDA is very critical. Some of these are unilateral, some of them are bilateral on their side, and they call that, you know, who are they siding with? Or what is the term that's used when you do that? It's basically, where's the weight of the NDA on it? You know, where's the weight of the agreement? Is it one-sided, two-sided? That's kind of the term, the slang terms that people use. Make sure you research this. I could tell you the NDAs that I get from these big power players, they're gonna be cited to them. And they're very, very specific, exact to the detail, to the dates, to everything. If there's violations, you know, we're gonna warn you once, we're gonna do this. They're all written differently. I could tell you with the big players, there's not a template. These are custom. They follow a certain template. They have the different clauses in them. However, they're very unique and they are very inclusive. The more inclusive yours is good. However, sometimes more inclusive could actually hurt you. Just look this up, make sure you do your research, consult with an attorney, or put your messages or your comments below and we'll let you know. We'll see you on the next video.